And let's go and take a look at a few of the numbers really quickly. For the 5th year in a row, I believe Tampa Bay has ran this division since 2020. So it would be 4th year in a row going for number 5 with a 10-7 record. Atlanta at 8-9, Carolina at 5-12, and the Saints at the bottom at 5-12. You look at some of their win over under odds, 9.5 for Tampa Bay, 7.5 for Atlanta, Carolina at 6.5, and New Orleans at 6.5, with Tampa's a plus 100 favorite. So before we get into our actual predictions, Kelsey, any surprise here with some of these odds or numbers that you're looking at?
I feel like New Orleans is higher than I would have expected. But I also feel like 6.5 for New Orleans is kind of a good line. Carolina, I feel like should be higher than New Orleans, whatever it is. So if there's 6.5 for New Orleans, 7.5 for Carolina makes sense. But so those two being the same, and then by that measure, then you also have to bump the Falcons up by one win as well. So I wish the Saints were a little bit lower, but I also understand going 5.5 feels like dead odds. So you can't really do much there. But yeah, no surprises really. This is kind of when I look at it, take a glance at the league. If I'm not trying to dive into it, yeah, this feels right.
Can't and those New Orleans Saints odds minus 275. You want to go lower than that too. So they're basically saying, you know what, if you do want to go lower like many are expecting, you're not gonna the odds are not forever in your favor. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into our predictions for each record. I'll go and lead the way this time since you got to last week. We'll start from the bottom. We're gonna work our way to the top. At the bottom, I have those aforementioned New Orleans Saints. But I have them at 3-14. I don't think it's gonna be a pretty season down in the Bayou. Spoiler alert, they will be the number 1 overall pick in how I broke down and how my season's played out. There's just not a lot to love about them. I'm worried about Chris Olave's health with Derek Carr throwing him into collisions. So, I mean, the bright side is Derek Carr is not throwing him to the hospital anymore. The bad side news is I'm worried he has been to the hospital too many times. Rashid Shaheed's coming off an injury. Your rookie quarterback is the 8th, not even the 8th youngest quarterback in the league, and is the last player born in the 1990s to get drafted, and he has looked erratic at best. Spencer Rattler, we'll see. Wasn't exactly pretty last year either. Quarterback situation's a mess. Offensive line's young and pretty good, actually, if they can stay healthy. Like, they're getting something going there. Defensively, geriatrics across the board for the most part. A lot of older players. They traded Sean Lattimore last season as well. There's a lot of holes, a lot of things not to love. Alvin Kamara's getting a little bit older. I don't even know if say they start 0-6. I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded before the deadline or like 2-5. If it's a rough start, I wouldn't be surprised to see him traded. I got him going 3-14. I just have a hard time seeing paths for New Orleans to be successful after that ridiculous 2-0 start last year with a better, healthier roster. They went 3-12 the rest of the way. It only got worse. The team's gotten worse since then. They were minus 60 in net points when they were outscoring their opponents like 80-15 in those first 2 weeks. They had a 65-point head start and still ended up minus 60. It's going to be a rough road for the Saints this next year. I think everyone else in the division got better. So we're going to keep the Saints in the cellar at 3-14. Moving up the list now, at Carolina next at 6-11, but a competitive 6-11 if there is such a I think I like what Bryce Young did down the stretch. He looked like a good NFL quarterback, not just a go get him tiger. He looked like a good NFL quarterback. I like Tedoroa McMillan as the receiver 1 to complement Xavier Legette, Hunter Renfrow. They got a really good depth of receivers, even good old Adam Thielen at 40 years old, matching the 40 joke that we have. Good running back room, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard. Offensive lines getting there. I think there's some work to do. Defensively, getting Derek Brown back is huge to go along with JC Horn. I still think they're a year away. I think they're still building. I want to see them continue off of what they did at the end of last year. I still think defensively there's some holes. I don't think that minus 193 net points from last year is going to carry over. So I think they'll be better. Like I know 6-10 doesn't 6-11 doesn't sound great, but I think they will continue to be better. There'll be a lot of close games. Thinking kind of like some of those teams right before they break through, they have that one season where it could have gone either way. Maybe they win a few of these one score games. I think what we saw at the back half of last year is we're going to see for the whole season where they're weirdly competitive with everybody, but not necessarily better than anyone at the same time. They're just gonna be weird. They're gonna annoy at least 2 or 3 people. They're gonna ruin a few seasons at some point with the over-unders or something like that. They're gonna be a pain in the butt. Next up, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I've missed 7-10. I think they're gonna be, like, almost exactly the same as last year. Like, it's gonna be Michael Penix's rookie year, quote, unquote, give or take, and I say that because he played 4 preseason snaps last year before starting in the month of December, basically, when Kirk Cousins imploded. I still have some questions. Defensively, they finally invested in the edge rush position in the draft, finally, and they double dipped in it. Don't know how I if I love those spots they did, I think they're going to be fine. There's going to be some growing pains. I still think Drake London's going to be awesome. Bijan Robinson's going to be awesome. Michael Penix is going to be a little up and down. Defensively, I think this can take a minute to round into form. So I'm going to give them at 7-10. I think it's not a hard schedule by any means, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was last year, for example. I think there's going to be a little bit more difficulty here and there. Like last year, they were in division. They were 4-2 in division. I think that I have them going 3-3 in division this year. So just switching one of those wins, which means at the top, I have Tampa Bay taking the division yet again at 11-6. I think they're even a little bit better. Love Emeka Ibuka. If Chris Godwin can't go right away, I think you got someone who fills those shoes perfectly. Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans, when Chris Godwin comes back, receiver rooms top 6 in the league, give or take. Could be top even higher than that. K. Dotton, still K. Dotton, no gloves required. Offensive line, really, really good. Running back room, Bucky Irving, Sean Davis, Rashad White is good. Offensively, they are loaded. Defensively, Yaya Diaby, Vita Vea, Desmond, if he can get his weight down. Good luck pushing on him and Vita Vea in the center. Levante David, the ageless wonder. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, the rookie corner. They got in a second-round steal. I think he's going to take the starting job from either Jamel Dean or McCollum. They just got a really, really good roster if they can stay healthy. I think Todd Bowles is an outstanding coach, and Baker's gone through so many offensive coordinators that him losing Liam Cohen, I think is just he's going to handle it as well as just about any quarterback in the NFL can handle losing a coordinator that was successful. All the weapons in the world, a relatively easy schedule, easy division. I think Tampa Bay is really, really good and underrated. So I got Tampa Bay going 11-6 to win the division again for a 5th consecutive year. So before I let you respond to that, I'll go and just recap it really quick. From the bottom to the top, the Saints at 3-14, the Panthers at 6-11, the Falcons at 7-10, and the Buccaneers capping the division at 11-6.
Yeah, not bad. I like that. I don't hate anything about it. It doesn't surprise me in the least. That's where you went with any of these.
Looks awfully familiar, actually, looking at it. Just switch some numbers around.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try to respond and give you like a whole like swerve. I'm just gonna peel the Band-Aid off because I have no difference in the standings whatsoever. None at all. It's the same standings, different records. Saints at the bottom, 5-12. I do think they get to the 5-win mark. I think what's interesting for this team is they have a young offense. Their defense has old holes, but they don't really have fill-ins for the old holes. And that's what scares me for the defense. The young offense is kind of exciting if Tyler Shuck can play well. Spencer Rattler can play well. Whichever one plays, if you can play well, there's an opportunity for this team to maybe not get more than 8 wins, but I think you're going to get to 5 wins. And this is why, I talked to 6.5. I didn't hate the 6.5 line for the team for their win odds. Like that doesn't scare me as much. I don't think they're going to get there just given where their record is. I think their record is one that, unfortunately, in your division, you have 3 other teams that are young and hungry and healthier in every position. And I think that's where you lose a lot of this for the Saints. But yeah, I think the Saints 5-12 is where I have them finishing the same as last year. Panthers, I have next up 7-9 though. I do have a little more faith in the Panthers than you did, and I have a little more faith in 7-10. My bad.
Okay, I was back. Wait a minute.
Hold on. My bad. My numbers didn't my brain didn't correlate. Anyways, 7-10 for the Panthers. 3-3 in division. I have them splitting the division, which is something it's an improvement over last year. But I think this is one where you look at this team, this roster. You mentioned Derek Brown. There's a couple other pieces. Obviously, Teteroa McMillan. We know what he can do. I think Hunter Renfrow is a great addition for Bryce Young. I think that's helpful. We always make fun of Thielen's 40, but honestly, at 40 years old, Adam Thielen will still be one of the best weapons for Bryce Young. And I'm not saying he's going to get replaced or nobody's going to replace him, but he's going to be a third down, first down gainer. That's what he's going to be. That's what he always has done. And you look at the rest of this team, Chew Hubbard, you think I've always liked him. I liked him in college. Rico Dowdle being there. You look at Xavier Legette getting another year. That offensive line is kind of scary if they can stay healthy. And that's an impressive piece as well. They can run block with the best of them. Taylor Moton might be the one weak spot that I look at this team as maybe could replace him eventually. But look, for right now, this works. It's a young team, and Taylor Moton's kind of filled this role for other teams, so it's kind of no surprise he's here again. filling a tackle role for a season until they draft a tackle in next year's draft with a top 10 pick. This is like Taylor Moton's role in the NFL. And honestly, he's made a lot of money doing it. So congratulations to him. A'Shawn Robinson, I think, is going to be huge, having a full season of A'Shawn and Derek Brown in this team. And then on top of that, as you mentioned, J.C. Horn on the back end is a very intriguing piece, and I don't think there's anybody that should overlook him as one of the potentially best corners in the league, because he can be potentially one of the best corners. But yeah, this team is, I don't know. I don't hate them at all. That's why I went 7-10. I just don't think there's enough there to get over the hump. So that's why I have them going there. And then up next is Atlanta at 9-8. So improvement over last year by 1 game. Surprisingly, I said to everybody, get up 1 game. Well, guess what? I meant it. However, they do have them going 2-4 in division. I think they match up well with out-of-division opponents. In division scares me a little bit more because that offensive line. But out-of-division, I think their weapons can play well. Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, everybody you mentioned. On top of that, Ray McLeod is in kind of an unsung third option that realistically he's kind of been a second option in a lot of cases. And then beyond that, you look at the rest of the team, and I think Ruke Aurora, I'm going to mess his name up, Aurora, the defensive tackle, the nose guard, honestly, one of the more underrated defensive linemen in the league who can do the right things at the right times. He's not an excellent pass blocker. He's not an excellent run stopper, but he is at an average to above average at any given time. And honestly, for the Falcons, you can't ask for much more right now. That's what you need. There's been a couple losses in the offseason, but I think overall this team is built to stay somewhere similar. And by the way, they have a Lamar Jackson on the roster. It's just not the Lamar Jackson. I just want to throw that out there as a fun fact.
The Lamar, tomato.
Yeah, big change in the first word there. But yeah, so Falcons for me, 9-8, 2-4 in division, but they're still going to come in second in the division. And then Tampa Bay, Baker, Mike Evans walking 1,000-yard, 10 touchdowns. That's just what Mike Evans does. It's realistically 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, but I'll take 10 touchdowns if he wants to give me it. Baker's hungry. He continues to show why Cleveland made a mistake. Truthfully, I don't know, and I talked about this with many times. I think we've talked about it on the show before. Baker's probably not Baker without everything he went through. So that's one piece of this. But then the rest of the team, Bucky Irving, you mentioned. And then an unsung hero that I think could make an impact defensively that currently is 4th on the depth chart. And I think everybody's going to laugh when I say his name. But it is a Sanders. And it is Shiloh. I think Shiloh as a free safety, you've seen him in preseason camp. If he can make the team, I think there's going to be a package for Shiloh Sanders somewhere defensively to make an impact. And that's something that I find intriguing, where you look at this team as trying to refill this, what used to be an excellent secondary, not even 4 years ago. And the last 3 years, they've really kind of like, what are we going to do? I think if the young players can step up, I think if you can get a solid season out of Jamel Dean, I think this team has an opportunity there to fill in a lot of holes that they didn't maybe expect. But I think overall, the Bucs are still the most dominant team in the South. Oh, by the way, they added one of the best tackling linebackers in all of the NFL, and Anthony Walker. So that's something to talk about. And I just look at this team as like, there's every opportunity. 11-6 doesn't seem crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm not trying to spoil my playoff picks, but I wouldn't be surprised here if they can upset a few teams in the playoffs and make a long run. I think this team is a scary contender, and if given the right matchup, as you mentioned, the defensive tackles alone, like any offensive line, you're triple teaming both of those guys, like, or at least one of those guys. Like, you have to, or bare minimum double team one and chip the other. Like, and you add in the potential weapons on the outside. I think this team has a lot of positives if they can just stay healthy. Has been kind of the tenure for the Bucs. Staying healthy is the problem. But I think overall this team has got a lot going for them. By the way, 5-1 in the division is what I have them as.
Same record, but in the division, 5-1. That's a very unique team because it went through Tom Brady saved Tampa Bay to even in the 2 years since he's been gone, they've won the division in 2 years since he's been gone too. They're outstanding. They're just very well run. Surprisingly, from top to bottom, they feel like they won 7 games with a quarterback that couldn't see and threw 30 interceptions. Like, I think they've been well run for a while. They just needed to get Jameis Winston out, LASIK eye surgery, and they've been good ever since then. I feel like they're the team that matches up so well with all the good teams. Like last year, they were one of 2 teams to beat the Lions. They beat the Eagles in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They nearly beat the Commanders in the playoffs as well. they match up well with good teams, but then they randomly almost lose to Carolina and stuff like that. Like, they find themselves they punch up very well. They punch
Yeah.
up in the higher weight class as well, but then they get caught by the little ankle biters that just tend to slip them up a little bit, especially when you didn't have Godwin and Evans for weeks at a time. Rookie Jalen McMillan, they relied on the screen game. It's a they're a very interesting team if everything clicks. And I wanted to circle with Atlanta. Atlanta's almost the exact same thing, just like a year away. I feel like this time next year, if everything builds, that offense is going to be scary going into next year. Assuming Penix ascends like we both think he's capable of, we both think he's awesome, and I think he's going to have a rough, quote unquote, rookie season. Just the timing, getting used to the NFL speed, just getting used to the different offenses, get running out of center, the pistol, considering he threw 13 college passes from under center in his entire career, and that was a long career. So I think getting used to some of that so they don't run the pistol since their offense runs off of Bijan and running the outside zone, the inside zone, which is harder to do out of shotgun, and the bootlegs. I think it'll take a little bit of time. So I think a little bit of a rocky year for them, but I still think they're going to be awesome. It's going to be very fun with these two, especially next year. We might have a different conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. And I want to go back to the Bucs for a second because there is just something intriguing at this wide receiver room. They have Tez Johnson that just happens to be on this roster. To go with Emeka Ibuka, to go with Jalen McMillan, to go with, when he comes back, Chris Godwin, to go with Mike Evans. Oh, by the way, there's still a Sterling Shepard on the roster. I look at the weapons just at the receiving core. You mentioned Kate Otten alone. I mean, you add in Bucky Irving as a pass catching option. Baker is spoiled for choices for once. This might be the first year in his career that he's had more than 4 options that could play week in and week out that will be successful. I mean, I don't know if anybody else picked up the Bucs receivers the last couple of years, but you're usually shuffling between them because they continue to get hurt. Yeah, I was like, you did, I did it in one league. Like, you kind of just have to figure it out. This year feels like if that has to happen, you won't feel very scared going with the next man up because we've seen what Emeka Ibuka could do in college. I mean, he has the body for an NFL receiver. You know what Tez Johnson can do in college. You know he can make that next step into the NFL if he's able to get open. We've seen Devontae, who has a very similar body style, succeed as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for this receiving core to make an impact for Baker as well. So, I mean, I look at Baker, who last year had one of the best passing years of anybody, period. I wouldn't be surprised to see a repeat from him either.
4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns. I think he's going to – I don't know if he'll quite match those, but I agree that I think he could very easily be like 4,035. Maybe instead of 16 picks, you drop that down to 11. I think just because Bucky's going to have that running game going earlier too. So I think that's going to help for sure since he'll be the starting running back out of the gate, at least as far as we know, unless some tomfoolery is about to take place down there. But I think the run game's going to be a little bit stronger earlier. And I think he won't be winging it quite as much because I think defensively they're going to be a little bit stouter too. There were some games where they were forced into shootouts, like that Ravens game, that Atlanta game. They've had a few shootouts where I think they'll be able to avoid with that defense. But